I heard two words put together today that I had never previously heard put together, and those two words are Uber and scooter. That's right. So, what is it? Is it like Uber Eats? You call somebody and they bring a scooter to your front door? Or is it like Lime and Bird and it's just another scooter company like Veo has in Europe? What is Uber scooter? Does a guy pick you up on a scooter and say, hey, hop on the back, and then you go to where you're going? What is Uber scooter? Well, I only heard about it today, but apparently it's a thing. So stick around after the theme music and find out exactly what the H is in Uber scooter. Is it an Uber? Is it a scooter? What is it? Yes, Uber has been offering scooters for apparently a few years now because it has a partnership with Lime. Now, I don't know about Australia or Prague or Gdansk or Ubon Ratchathani or Surigao del Norte. I don't know where you live. Don't ask me. But in North America, you can rent an Uber scooter in some cities such as, I don't know, you ever heard of this one? Los Angeles, San Diego, Atlanta. Hot Atlanta. You can usually tell them because they're green and they say Lime on them. But you can flag them down and pay for them and everything on your Uber app. I thought that was kind of crazy. Now, they only rent the regular stand-up electric scooters that you and I love, not the kind with two wheels and a seat that kind of looks like a bicycle. These are actual stand-up electric scooters that you can unlock them with the Uber app. You can pay online, and apparently you can park them anywhere. It seems to me that would vary by the city, but that's what they're saying on the website. You don't have to wait for a driver to show up. You can have fun getting to your destination. And of course, well, they're a little bit safer for the environment, right? Some cities also have electric bicycles that you can access through Uber. Obviously, it's going to vary according to city and even time of day if I know Uber. But in general, for most cities, according to the webpage, I'm sure this is making a wide sweeping generalization. It's $1 to unlock the scooter, and then it could be anywhere from 15 cents to 30 cents per minute. So, according to my calculations, if you make a 10-minute ride, that could cost you between $2.50 to $4 US. And when they say prices are subject to change, believe me, prices are subject to change. And you know what? Here's a little secret. They're not going to be cheaper. They say it's going to be seamless. You don't have a separate app for scooters. You just use your regular Uber app. I've Ubered most countries in the world and haven't had an issue. In some countries, they have something called Grab, which is similar to Uber. But in Europe, throughout Europe, I used Uber, and it was pretty easy. So this is something that maybe I would actually consider doing. First, you just unlock it, and then you reserve it. And apparently there's a QR code on the scooter that you just scan with your smartphone. You do have a smartphone, don't you? I hope you have a smartphone.
From the Northwest, he rides the wolf. When it comes to speed, he's not a cringer. He's got a DIY van. I'm telling you, he's the man. Everybody, it's Ginger!
No, he's not actually here. He's not in the Scooter Dome in Las Vegas, but I have that little song that I created when he came on to the show, Ginger on Wheels. little bit of news about him. I just pull up his channel just to see what's happening. He doesn't always do electric scooters. Sometimes he does unicycles and other things like e-bikes. So he's an alumni of the Electric Scooter podcast. And I just thought I'd pull up his channel and see what's the haps, what's going on with the man. And it turns out he is in Vietnam. Now, the video, I'm sure, was just taken from his telephone because it's TikTok shape, not landscape mode. It's in portrait mode. I don't really dig those videos too much. I don't watch on my phone. For the most part, I watch on my television, believe it or not, through Roku or Amazon. I pull up the YouTube app so that way I have everything going through my stereo. It's on a big screen and everything. Maybe that's why if you're a scooter content creator, maybe you don't see a lot of comments from me because there's no provision to do that I know of when you're watching it through Roku or Amazon. But he was in Ho Chi Minh City, and he's commenting on the way people are riding, mopeds, scooters. They call them scooters. Actually, over there, they call them motorcycles. In different parts of Southeast Asia, you are going to hear just the word motorcycle, motosai, moto, whatever. And they're talking about what in America and other parts of the world we call scooters or mopeds. Not the stand-up kind of scooter, but the kind you sit on. If you've ever seen videos from Vietnam or Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, they're squirting all over the place. It looks impossible. They're like fish in a pond. And Ginger on Wheels is standing on a street corner making a comment. I'll play that for you in just a moment. And then I will give you my thoughts of when I was in Vietnam. Now, I didn't go to Ho Chi Minh City, formerly known as Saigon. I was up north, and I rode a scooter throughout Hanoi and way, way deep into the countryside, particularly this one valley that I went to that had been closed off for many, many years, even throughout the Vietnam War, because they didn't have a road getting there. So they speak some weird dialect that's kind of mixed with Laotian. Sorry, let me retract that. I don't mean to say weird dialect. I mean non-standard dialect that combines some words from Vietnamese, maybe some words from Chinese, I don't know, but definitely Laotian words and some words that Thai people would understand. It's like this long-lost valley that had not been connected to the rest of the world. It was called Mae Chau, was the name of the town I was in. And I made a couple videos that I didn't release to the public of just riding around. And I do have a little bit of insight into how you get around on a scooter in Vietnam. But first, let's hear a word from Ginger.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk, where today we're going to talk about all the people who tell me I'm going to crash if I don't have a turn signal, or if I don't make a hand signal, or if I don't stop at the stop sign. Turns out you don't need to do that at all. You just need to be aware of your surroundings. This is Exhibit A right here. No traffic rules at all at this intersection, but somehow, magically, people don't hit each other. You can just walk right across. If you're paying attention to your surroundings, you won't hit anyone. Oh my gosh, this is a weird concept. So I don't want to see any more comments on my YouTube channel. I can't believe you're riding on the sidewalk. Oh my gosh, you didn't even use a turn signal. I can't imagine riding that thing at night. Like, just look at this. This is how it's done, folks. Nobody hits anybody else. Just pay attention to what you're doing, and what do you know? It all works out.
I hear you talking, brother man. I'm with you 100%. What do you know? It all works out. I'll go a little bit deeper into that. For one thing, you're just hearing traffic go by, and you're hearing Ginger on Wheels Ryan talking about the situation. Go to his YouTube channel and check it out. You heard it. It's, 30 seconds or something like that? But I've been there, and I have like I said, ridden around different parts of Vietnam on a scooter, the type with a seat, still 2 wheels. And it's true what he's saying. And how does that relate to us riding scooters here in the United States? The type without seats is really what I'm talking about. And I always tell people, do what makes sense to you. There are all kinds of rules all over the world, even in the United States. Every state has different rules. Maybe later I'll play these Michigan rules and regulations and laws that I came across on YouTube. But from Michigan to North Carolina to New York City, Hawaii has no rules. So they're all different. All of us are learning together how to deal with a smarter, more fun, cheaper, less polluting type of transportation. It's going to take time for things to get ironed out. I know Australia and England, it's illegal or it's legal to go the dangerous route and rent what they call a shared scooter, what we call a rental scooter, at least here in the great state of Nevada, in the fabulous city of Las Vegas, in the Scooter Dome, we call them rental scooters. Just like we talked about Uber earlier, how if you have the Uber app, you can use that to access Lime scooters. So what's my point? My point is do what is convenient, smart, and safe for you. Whatever the rules are. I'm not saying be a rebel, be a daredevil, and jump on the sidewalk where it's obviously illegal and there are pedestrians and women pushing strollers with infants that are sucking on a little baby bottle and do a rooster tail and shred some asphalt onto them. I'm not saying that. That ain't what I'm saying. I'm saying if there's a street with 18-wheelers buzzing down and there's a sidewalk with nobody on it and the rules say no riding on the sidewalk, I'm riding on the sidewalk. If I can see as far as possible, I'm going to do what's safe. I'm going to be wearing a helmet. I'm going to be wearing safety gear. And I'm going to do what's safe because it's my melon. It's my body that's going to be either crushed or come home safely and have a nice meal and watch TV in the evening. But let's get back to Vietnam for a moment. There are a couple rules of the road that I think are based on a combination of common sense and just the culture of Southeast Asia in general. If you're a pedestrian and you're walking across the street, you're never going to get to the other side. It's just not going to happen if you make eye contact with anybody, because you make eye contact with a car or let's call them motorcycles, they say to themselves, he or she sees me. The pedestrian sees me, so I'm good to go. I can just keep going. And they're just going to drive and you're going to be standing there. What you do is, and this is what I imagine the future is going to be like when the streets are just swarming with scooters in all different parts of the world. You are like a fish in a stream. You just go along with the person in front of you, to the left of you, to the right of you, just a natural kind of flow. And it just works. Ginger on Wheels is trying to describe it as he's standing on a street corner. And it is kind of mesmerizing to watch. Go on YouTube, watch his video. I don't think his video, I mean, it's only 30 seconds, so it's not illustrative of like a drone shot would show a major intersection where you would just look at it and blow your mind. It's not. He's just standing on the street corner. He happens to take a small clip. But anyway, go and watch what he's doing, because Ginger on Wheels is in Vietnam, and that's pretty cool.
There are scooter rules. There are scooter laws. The man is coming down, so you better pay attention. Huh. There are scooter rules. There are scooter laws. Some bogus regulations, but I don't know. Maybe you should follow them? I don't know. Do what you think's right.
You say already, and I say alrighty, and I was a zombie for you, little lady. Coming up from Fox 17 News, got to give them credit, in Michigan. They have laws. It's kind of odd to me. Does it strike you as odd that scooters follow skateboard rules? They're not the same, but that's the way they do it in Michigan. What can I tell you? So I think they're fairly reasonable in their outlook on scooters, other than a couple minor things. But anyways, let's roll the tape, and there will be a link if you want to see the Ginger on Wheels video. You want to see this video from Michigan? I don't think so. I think this pretty much covers it. What you hear on this podcast will be enough. But anyway, here it is.
Well, we've all seen them by now. In fact, we did a story on Fox 17 recently. Those electric scooters cruising around downtown Grand Rapids. But do you know the basic laws pertaining to this new way of getting around town? Well, here to give us some pointers, Tom Sinus joining us from Sinus Dramus Law Firm, as he does every weekend. Tom, first and foremost, let's talk about the regulation here in Michigan when it comes to these electronic scooters.
Well, you're right, Derek, and you guys have been covering this. As of September 30th, we start seeing the spin scooters all over downtown Grand Rapids and the surrounding area. So, of course, I naturally thought, well, what law applies here? Do we have a law for electronic scooters? Well, yes and no. We don't have a scooter law, but back in 2018, the legislature passed a law known as the electric skateboard law. Now, scooters, you think, well, they're not skateboards. Well, actually, under the law, the definition of an electric skateboard includes a scooter. So we have a state law that governs these electric scooters and, of course, electric skateboards as well. And that state law also says that cities, like the city of Grand Rapids, can enact some of their own ordinance regarding these devices. So, for example, people may see if they rent one of these spin scooters, that if they rent it within the downtown improvement district, they cannot ride that on the sidewalk. And the state statute authorizes cities like Grand Rapids to limit where people can use these devices within a particular municipality.
Talk about some of the basic safety rules when it comes to these scooters, Tom.
Okay, so again, let's go back to this electric skateboard law. It gives us some pretty common sense but important safety rules regarding riding these things. So people can ride on streets, but only where the speed limit is less than 45 miles an hour. You can only have one person on a device at a time. You need to ride as close to the right side of the road as you can. Riders under 12 are not able to operate these devices on roadways, streets, or the highway. Riders under 19 must wear a helmet. You can't operate one of these after dark unless you have certain visibility on both the front and the back. And when you're on sidewalks, riders have to yield to pedestrians and they have to give an audible signal before passing the pedestrians. Now, what is really important to remember here is that anyone operating one of these scooters has the same basic rule that we've talked about before in all other contexts. They have a duty to exercise reasonable care. If you're operating one of these scooters and you don't exercise reasonable care and someone is injured, then the operator of the scooter can be liable, which of course raises the question, well, what financial resources would you have if you were liable? Well, you may have coverage under your homeowner's insurance, you may not. And so you want to know if you're going to be using one of these things with somewhat regularity, whether or not you would have any insurance that would be available to you. Other thing to note is that there are terms and conditions that are given by the company like Spin that provides these scooters that may provide some additional parameters that you have to follow if you're using one of these devices.
A lot to think about indeed. They're fun, they're handy, but got to make sure you're doing it right. Tom, how do people track you down? They have more questions.
They can find us online at www.sinusdramus.com. Shoot us an email at info@sinusdramus.com or give us a call, 616-301-3333.
All right. Thanks as always, Tom. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Derek.
How do you like that? They got a little free commercial in there, kind of a public service announcement for the state of Michigan, it's interesting that they have a state law that governs skateboards, that they are pertaining to scooters, which I don't know. Okay, if it works for them. But I thought it was interesting that they brought James Cagney back from the dead to do the interview. Yeah, see, how about these scooters? Are very handy there.
Come out and take it, you dirty yellow-bellied rat, or I'll give it to you through the door.
Well, we've all seen them by now. In fact, we did a story on Fox 17.
Yeah, we've all seen them by now. See, we recently did a story on Fox 17.
Well, we've all seen them by now. In fact, we did a story on Fox 17 recently. Those electric scooters cruising around downtown Grand Rapids. But do you know the basic laws pertaining to this new way of getting around town? Well, here to give us some pointers, Tom Sinus joining us from Sinus Dramus Law Firm.
I know it sounds like Sinus Drainus, but it's Sinus, S-I-N-A-S, and he's a lawyer.
As he does every weekend. Tom, first and foremost, let's talk about the regulation here in Michigan when it comes to these electronic scooters.
Well, you're right, Derek, and you guys have been covering this. As of September 30th, we start seeing the spin scooters all over.
He said spin scooters, and apparently that's the name of the scooter rental company in Michigan.
Downtown Grand Rapids and the surrounding area. So, of course, I naturally thought, well, what law applies here? Do we have a law for electronic scooters?
What do you think, Scooterheads? Should I change the name of the podcast to the Electronic Scooter Podcast? I don't think so. That's a couple extra letters. You think I got that much time on my hands that I can go adding extra letters to stuff?
Well, yes and no.
I appreciate the legal opinion there, Mr. Sinus Drainus. What is that, Latin for mucus? But no, I said no. Okay, I'm not going to change it to the Electronic Scooter Podcast.
We don't have a scooter law, but back in 2018, the legislature passed a law known as the electric skateboard law. Now, scooters, you think, well, they're not skateboards. Well, actually, under the law, the definition of an electric skateboard includes a scooter. So we have a state law that governs these electric scooters and, of course, electric skateboards as well. And that state law also says that cities, like the city of Grand Rapids, can enact some of their own ordinance regarding these devices. So, for example, people may see if they rent one of these spin scooters, that if they rent it within the downtown improvement district, they cannot ride that on the sidewalk. And the state statute authorizes cities like Grand Rapids to limit where people can use these devices within a particular municipality.
I get that. I don't have a problem with that. Obviously, there's going to be construction zones or downtown areas or places where they don't want scooters at all, or scooters have to follow a little more strict rules. You know, in Las Vegas, we have legalized marijuana, but I think there's some rules like they can't be near a school or a church or something like that. You don't want the preacher man token up before he goes in to give his sermon. Or do you?
Talk about some of the basic safety rules when it comes to these scooters, Tom.
Yeah, tell us about some of these basic scooter laws, Tom.
Okay, so again, let's go back to this electric skateboard law. It gives us some pretty common sense but important safety rules regarding riding these things. So people can ride on streets, but only where the speed limit is less than 45 miles an hour. You can only have one person on a device at a time. You need to ride as close to the right side of the road as you can. Riders under 12 are not able to operate these devices on roadways, streets, or the highway. Riders under 19 must wear a helmet. You can't operate one of these after dark unless you have certain visibility on both the front and the back. And when you're on sidewalks, riders have to yield to pedestrians and they have to give an audible signal before passing the pedestrian.
So far, that seems to me to be common sense and courtesy type stuff. I don't have a problem with that stuff. Do you?
Now, what is really important to remember here is that anyone operating one of these scooters has the same basic rule that we've talked about before in all other contexts. They have a duty to exercise reasonable care. If you're operating one of these scooters and you don't exercise reasonable care and someone is injured, then the operator of the scooter can be liable, which of course raises the question, well, what financial resources would you have if you were liable? Well, you may have coverage under your homeowner's insurance, you may not.
No way. I can tell you with supreme confidence that my homeowner's insurance isn't going to cover me when I'm on a rental electric scooter.
And so you want to know if you're going to be using one of these things with somewhat regularity, whether or not you would have any insurance that would be available to you. Other thing to know is that there are terms and conditions that are given by the company like Spin that provides these scooters that may provide some additional parameters that you have to follow if you're using one of these devices.
A lot to think about indeed. They're fun, they're handy, but...
Huh?
A lot to think about indeed. They're fun, they're handy, but...
What'd you think of one indeed and handy, but...
A lot to think about indeed. They're fun, they're handy, but...
Yeah, see, they're fun and they're handy.
Got to make sure you're doing it right. Tom, how do people track you down? They have more questions.
I think he's saying, how do they track you down if they have more questions?
Got to make sure you're doing it right. Tom, how do people track you down? They have more questions.
It's interesting what they teach journalists in school these days.
They can find us online at www.sinusdramus.com. Shoot us an email at info@sinusdramus.com or give us a call, 616-301-3333.
All right. Thanks as always, Tom. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Derek.
There you go. You got the phone number if you want to track down Sinus Drainus and ask him, what the H was that guy who was interviewing you saying, and how did you understand him? Well, Scooterheads, that's about a wrap for this episode. In keeping with my theme from last week, I thought I would put an original Scooter song at the end of the episode. And whoa, did my ratings tank! I'm not even joking. Last week, our statistics went down, but it's not really reflective of the quality of the individual episode, because some people don't listen to the podcast as soon as it comes out. That's just when they get around to it. So when you look at the numbers, sometimes people are listening to older podcasts, sometimes they're listening to new ones, sometimes the new one get around to it in a week or two, whatever. I just think it's funny that I put an original song at the end, and then the statistics, they didn't tank. All right, they were down a little bit. Just probably means they'll be up next time. But until next time, Scooterheads, keep shiny side up, dirty side down. Wear your safety gear. It just makes sense. Apart from looking pretty cool, when you see somebody that's all in alpine stars and cool looking helmet and gloves and all that stuff, it's like, whoa, what is that guy doing, man? Is he going to be doing some kind of daredevil stunts or something? They don't know you're going to the library to return your kid's sister's Three Little Pigs book and stopping back for Oreo cookies on the way home.
on by.